Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And I don't know about you, but round 14 and the WAFL W Grand Final weekend was a mega weekend of football. Plenty of great contests all around, great marks, great goals and everything in between. And we're going to review it all for you today, including a chat with East Perth coach Ross McQueen, who just nabbed his 7th victory in a row for the Royals, and they are on top of the ladder for the first time in 9 years. And of course, we'll have some big news as far as the Around the WAFL Player of the Year votes are concerned. Paul Persick with you in the BackChat studios today, and alongside me, he's going to join me for the remainder of the season. A huge thanks to Mark Foreman. Marky, welcome along.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, pleasure. Happy to be on board for the rest of the year and talk some waffle. And as you said, it's been unreal. Look, I mean, my first week last week was a great week of waffle footy, and then almost they went one better this weekend.
They certainly did. Great contests. Of course, the WAFL Tour went up to Geraldton as well for a Sunday gem, but also the WAFL W Grand Final. We must send our congratulations to East Fremantle. Grand Final redemption complete.
Yeah, role reversal from last year, and saw some really cool photos of always the euphoric moments of the final siren. So congratulations to them. But a really good game as well, and a awesome way to end the WAFL W season.
Yeah, Zippy Fish winning the best on ground medal. Congratulations to her. And also we had the Rogers Cup as well earlier in the day. That was a thriller. West Perth getting up in a classic by just 3 points. And the standard of women's footy just keeps getting better and better and better at both levels.
Yeah, it does. And that's a credit to the attempts to grow the game. I think it's been occasionally slow a little bit. People were worried that they were going too hard at it, but in the end, it was the only way that they could develop the game. And now we're at this point where, like you say, the standard is just getting better and better. So, as with anything, whether it's boys or girls, the more people we've got playing the game, the better.
And the crowd as well at Mineral Resources Park. There was about 4,000 or 5,000 there on the Saturday. Just amazing, and a lot of noise and atmosphere created.
Yeah, really cool to get the support too. And like with any footy, the atmosphere is always going to add to it. So sure, it was absolutely awesome for the girls to run around in front of that amount of people.
Congratulations to West Perth and East Fremantle on their respective triumphs. This is Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Paul Persick and Mark Foreman. Well, what about East Perth, Mark? 7 wins in a row following their victory over Claremont on Sunday. And for the first time in 9 years, they are on top of the ladder, and it's well-deserved for this Royal side. And their coach, Ross McQueen, he is the talk of the town, and he is good enough to join us on today's episode. Ross, welcome back to the show, mate. You must be delighted with the form of your side.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's great. It's great for the boys to get a bit of reward for effort, as I say. But it's an enjoyable moment, but we know there's plenty to be done.
Talking about some of your younger players in particular, I was very impressed with a lot of them. Sam Van Diemen, he was brilliant. The likes of Angus Schumacher, who's continuing to get better and better at East Perth, and also the likes of Stan Wright and Harrison McCready. They really played their roles on Sunday.
It's been great. Like I said, Sam Van Diemen's only played league football, I think, early or middle of last year. I think he might have come into the senior side, and he's found a way to hold down his spot, play some really good footy. Obviously, Stan has been around the club for a little while, but really grown into his role the last couple of years. Harrison McCready, new to the club, was injured early in the year. Unfortunately, got an injury in the last practice game, but he's starting to build into his year really well. So, excited how some of these young boys are coming along, and we're looking forward to what the next couple of weeks will look like.
Ross, it's no secret you've got a really strong midfield group. Tell us about players like Hamish Brayshaw, Mitch Croden. They've been, we know where they've been previously in their careers. What do they bring to a WAFL club, and how important are they in the structure of what you're doing?
Oh, they're obviously very important for what we're doing. If you can win the ball at the source early and get the ball in your front half, that gives you a chance to help set up, and you're not having to try and move the ball all day from the back half. Quite often you start taking a few more risks and to leave yourself open to getting scored against. But they're experienced, they're big, they're strong bodies, they know football, they're good characters, but they're happy to pass on what they know to the young blokes, which is important. Like I said, we've got a number of young boys coming through in our reserves and Colts program, so they're happy to pass on their knowledge. And as you said, they're good football players, so they're hitting the scoreboard as well as giving our other blokes an opportunity to impact on the game.
What was the real message to the boys during the week of the game against Claremont, knowing that this one was going to be a big scalp if East Perth could get over the line?
Well, we've all got a lot of respect for Claremont, and I spent a lot of time there. So we respected the opposition, but we we're really heavily focusing on what we're trying to do, and that was our focus going into the game against Claremont, just seeing how we're going and what we're trying to do. Does it stack up against the really strong clubs in the competition? Like we had Swans at Swans and now Claremont, and we've got Peel at Peel and Subiaco and East Fremantle are our next 3 games. So there's every week's a challenge and an opportunity. So we saw it as an opportunity to see where we're at, and it was close all day, and maybe 4 goals in the end was maybe a goal or 2 more than probably reflected in the game, but we're happy to take that result.
Ross, it's no secret you said there that you certainly respect Claremont. They were strong in the ruck division. Ollie Eastland's been really good. What did you do to combat his influence?
Ollie's a good player. I remember him coming through as a young bloke through the Colts program. He's really worked in his craft. He worked a lot with Percy Johnson years ago, over the years and things. So we thought Jed competed really well against Ollie. Jed brings a different dynamic for us. He's been really positive. He's played 3 games of league football now. You're coming up against one of the, couple of the best ruckmen in the competition in terms of Ollie this week, and you've got the Peel boys, Riley Smith and Liam Reedy, and then he follows that up with Zach Clark. So Jed's got a big job in front of him, but it's all credit to Jed. He's been great with that. And our midfielders, we understood they had to work pretty hard to work off Ollie as well. So we thought Jed was really strong in that regard, and the mids were able to help nullify some of the Claremont mids a little bit.
Now, Ross, at the start of the season when you took over full-time at the East Perth Football Club, if anyone said to you you were going to be on top spot on the ladder at mid-July during the season, what would have been your first response?
Take the money. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, we've got that. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like every coach plans a year, and you're optimistic at the start of the year. But at the moment we're in a good position to perhaps set ourselves up for the back end of the year. But no, if you offered me that at the start of the year, we would have jumped at it.
Ross, you obviously respect all the clubs you play, but who do you feel like might be there or thereabouts to play you on the final day of the WAFL season? Of course, your belief to get there. Who do you think it might be against?
Oh, yeah, you're right, Mark. It is an extremely tight competition, and the results have been tight all year. And you just look at Swan District again on the weekend, getting over Subiaco. But I think I've said it earlier in the year, I've always liked what East Fremantle have put together, and I think they're starting to find some form, getting a few blokes back from injury. You can never rule out Peel and Subiaco. West Perth are coming, so they're only a couple of games away at the moment. It's a pretty even comp, but I'd probably say East Fremantle at the moment. Just the balance they've got and the depth they've managed to put together.
Ross, before we let you go, just interested to know your thoughts. There's been a lot of talk about the alignment systems. I heard you mention Peel there. What are your thoughts on what might happen with West Coast, and how do you see an alignment system versus a pure reserves team like West Coast?
I don't really know. I've got enough things to worry about at East Perth, I guess, myself, to try and comment on other people. Like I said, at the start of the year, we played West Coast in the pre-season. It was a cracking game of football. I think it was about 15 goals apiece, and we lost by a goal or 2. And then all of a sudden, a week later, they got smashed with their injury. So, there's people much smarter than I can probably comment on that, Mark. I just try and constantly worry about East Perth.
No, absolutely fair enough.
Fantastic stuff. Ross, it's no secret that you're the talk of the town this season. Top of the ladder are the Royals after their 7th win in a row. All the best on Saturday against Peel Thunder. Ross, thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, Paul. Cheers, Mark. Thank you.
Ross McQueen, the coach of the East Perth Football Club. They say 7th heaven for East Perth with their 7th win in a row. What a side Rossi has got out there on the field. He's getting so much out of his players.
Oh, absolutely. And, the best part about that for Ross is you do your work and your chunk of work in the middle of the season. They can, not that they want to, but they can afford to drop a few games leading into finals, and they'll still be in a really strong position.
I don't think they'll drop one for the rest of the season. Just the side that they've got, and the firepower in midfield, down back and up forward, and the developing talent that they have got through their Colts and reserves, and also in the league as well. Call me ambitious, but I don't think they'll drop one. I just have this gut feeling they won't drop one.
Maybe ambitious. I don't know. Look, they certainly won't want to be. There's always that argument, you need to, lose one before you head into finals. And I don't think Ross will be thinking that way at all, and they'll hope they don't. It's hard. Like, footy's a hard game, and we're in the middle of winter, and bodies will get sore, and they'll come up against, there'll be a game before the end of the year where they feel lethargic or, not tip-top. But, again, they're showing that they're a quality team, and quality teams find a way to win even when feeling like that. So you might be right. I'm not going to double down on that, Paul.
No.
But you've said it, so we'll revisit this in a few weeks and
certainly have a
see
look.
how they get on.
It's just what they've got on the field,
Yeah.
that they just don't look like a team that's going to go down that quickly, especially with the side that they have got. Everyone, Ross McQueen has led them so well. Of course, they've got Peel Thunder on Saturday. That game and every WAFL game in round 15 is live, free and in full on the AFL app. This is Around the Waffle, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Let's get to the round 15 action for you. We'll start off on the Saturday night, West Coast and West Perth. West Perth won the game, but their game after quarter time, where they started with a 7-0 first term, was hardly convincing.
Exactly right. And I think also reflective of what we all hoped we'd see is a more competitive West Coast side with numbers back. So I think it was 11 players that were injected into...
Yeah, 11 to 12 players.
Yeah, and that's great for the competition because we hated seeing what was happening at West Coast. But yeah, perhaps West Perth would have wanted a slightly stronger win. But in saying that, I think what West Coast have been churning out this year is not reflective of what they can do. So maybe we're starting to see a more realistic West Coast 2 side.
Would that mean that we could see much more better results from West Coast? Not like huge smashings or maybe even a win or two.
I'd 100% expect that. So, and I think that's what they'll be wanting for the end of the year. They'll be genuinely desperate to chase some premiership points. They got 2 last week, and that's a reasonable result. But the more players they get back, and the more players that the AFL side gets back, the stronger we're going to see this West Coast side. And I still feel as though they're somewhat on the back foot with what they're allowed to roll out with their 2s team. Perhaps a conversation for another day. But what they are throwing out there, they're performing. In the last 2 weeks, particularly really well.
Jackson Nelson, in particular, continuing his good season, 26 touches. Greg Clark, another 23. Harry Barnett in the ruck, very good. On the other side of the coin, West Perth, they had their stars firing, but yeah, it'll be hard for West Perth to get a measure of a match that went like that. 7 goals at the first quarter, but after quarter time, only 3, and very shoddy goal kicking as well. Case in point, Tyler Keitel, 3 goals, 5 up forward. Could have kicked maybe 7 or 8 if he was a little more accurate, but other than that, their stars really fired when they need to.
Yeah, well, 26 scoring shots for West Perth sort of suggests the pattern of the game. But you've got to kick him. Exactly right. And I was baffled to see that Tyler Keitel, who's obviously been around the system for so long, didn't make the most of his opportunities. You're going to get days like that. But I think, you turn, 6 of those misses into goals, and it's, a pretty good win in the end. But they didn't. And credit to West Coast as well. I did see some highlights here and there of the pressure that they were putting on, and that sort of results in that. But I think, maybe just take it and run for West Perth. They got the 4 points, and look, it's probably, as we mentioned, probably not going to really affect the ladder at the end of the day. But you can certainly get a lot out of these final games for teams that won't play finals, and that's what West Perth will be looking for.
It won't change the 5 that drastically, but it did get a little disruption this weekend, and we'll talk more about that later. The second game on the Sunday morning we'll go to now, Perth and South Fremantle. Very competitive outing. Perth will take a lot of positives out of this, but South Fremantle, they got the points, but at a cost. Toby McQuilkin went out with concussion and a couple of other injury problems for the Bulldogs as well.
Yep, and not what you want when you're trying to establish a good block of footy, and pretty influential players as well to lose there. So hopefully they don't lose them for too long. Obviously with the concussion you'll be back. I think I heard them say they're hoping he'll only miss 1, but not ideal.
And Chad Pearson as well, one of South Fremantle's key defenders. He also got injured in that 7-point win.
Yeah, and. Yeah, trying to hold down Ford at the back there is, and they did hold well even in the absence once he went down. So a good win. How many times do we say it? Good teams find a way to win the close ones, and that's what they've done. Only 7 points, but Perth bounced back pretty well from what they would have been super disappointed with the week before. to get that close. They've done pretty well.
Charlie Thompson in particular, he's led from the front, 30 disposals, coming over from Coburg at the start of the season. He's gotten better and better. Corey Byrne, another 30 touches. But I think from South Fremantle's point of view, I think the real workhorse in that game was Solomon James, the ruckman. I thought he played magnificently. His work rate in the ruck, picking up where Brock Higgins has left off, whether Higgins has been down on form, Solomon James has really taken the responsibility as South Fremantle's number one ruckman, and he played a really good game. 29 hit-outs, and he got 12 touches as well.
Yeah, and his follow-up work was what was pretty noticeable. And that, to be a good ruckman, not that I've ever been a good ruckman, far too short, but to be a good ruckman, it's all about the follow-up work. And, you see he laid a few tackles as well, but, watching the way he went about it was impressive. And yeah, you're absolutely right. He was a serious presence in that ruck, won the hit-out contest, albeit I thought Perth's young ruckman did pretty well.
Jang,
yeah. But yeah, he was a really good presence, Solomon James.
South Fremantle, of course, winning by 7 points over there at Lathlane. And then 430 kilometres north of Perth, Geraldton turned on an absolute gem. 19-point winners, East Fremantle over Peel Thunder. It was a great contest. But like South Fremantle, East Fremantle are counting a cost of a major injury. Milan Murdoch having scans today on his shoulder.
Okay, so you were up doing this game,
I was up there at
Paul?
Geraldton. It was absolutely fantastic. Great crowd, great atmosphere, and a wonderful game to call as well. Good, hard, attacking football. Fatigue maybe set in a little bit later. Peel Thunder, they played a good game. They got the jump in the first quarter. They were kicking very accurately. Ultimately, even with the likes of Bennell, who played his 100th game, Benjamin Hancock, 20 disposals, Blair Bell with 24, they just ran out of legs in the last quarter. They just got caught off guard.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, almost reverse to West Coast, is they lost a lot of players who were elevated to the senior side. So Fremantle needing to call on a few. And, when you lose a player like Joel Hamling, who has held down fort for Peel with that experience this year, to take him out of the side was not ideal for them, clearly. And, I think, as you mentioned, East Fremantle were able to sort of capitalise on a few opportunities up forward. And, yeah, probably got a little tired as well with the lower part of the squad depth tested.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have to say that the lower part of that squad, as far as depth, was really good for East Fremantle. I mean, Fraser Turner, the South Australian, he was brilliant in midfield and down back, 26 disposals. Harrison Marsh, he's continuing his strong form coming over from Subiaco, 32 touches and 10 marks. But one player who I really like to see the rising stars of each side get better. Chris Walker. What a spectacular player he's going to be. I mean, he played a really good game as a defender midfielder, 6 marks, and also laid down 5 good tackles and delivered the ball inside 54 times. I tell you something, he's going to get better and better, Chris Walker.
Thank you for the tip. So this is the sort of thing where I'm looking forward to seeing these sort of players. I've only obviously, as the podcast goes, came on board last week, but my exposure to WAFL footy has only grown throughout the year, and I haven't had the opportunity to see him play, but I'm looking forward to that. And I always love your hot tips, Paul, so I'll keep an eye on him.
Of course, East Fremantle, they'll have the bye before the big derby at Fremantle Oval, so I reckon that'll be your first big chance to watch Chris Walker in action. He is a player on the rise. Now, Swan Districts and Subiaco at Steel Blue Oval, big upset as far as the final 5, the race for 5th place was concerned. Swan Districts getting up by 2 points.
This was incredible. Now, this is the one that I probably paid closest attention to, and it was an unbelievable performance in the last quarter from Tom Edwards.
Oh.
So he kicked 4 goals for the game, all came in the last quarter. And when Swan Districts needed someone to stand up, he was the guy. Played on the wing for the first 2.5 to 3 quarters. And then they threw him forward. And what more of an impact can you make? Swan Districts only kicked 4 in the last quarter. They all came off his boots. So he was brilliant. And a little inside scoop. So I found out that on the outer at Steel Blue Oval, there's a few very loyal Swan District supporters. And they all get together and they chip in a tiny bit of cash to generate a cash reward or a prize, which is now been, I think they've had to cap it, the WAFL. Called the GG.
The GG.
The Golden Grunt. Named after a bloke who, they call him Grunt because apparently he burps all the time.
Okay.
And they award the Golden Grunt after every game to a player that they feel, not necessarily the biggest ball winner, but who really had an impact. And not surprisingly, Tom Edwards was the Golden Grunt winner.
How about that?
Presented by the ABC's Jonathan Beale. He goes up
good on you,
there.
Bealey.
Yeah, they all put it together, and then Jonathan Beale goes up there and presents it whoever it is. So Tom Edwards was stoked to win the Golden Grunt.
I can imagine it'll be a lot of cash. Make no mistake about that. He'd be happy with that, along with his performance of 4 goals.
Well, he wishes it was a lot of cash, but the WAFL doesn't allow it.
Oh,
so
no.
It's just an honorary little award now. But, a performance like that, to kick 4 in the last quarter and see Swans over the line was awesome.
It certainly was. It was a great win by Swan District. So a nice little glimmer of hope for them to make the 5. So no wonder that point earlier, the final 5, as a result of Swan District's shock win, got a little disruption. Subiaco, don't discount their effort. They played a good game of football as well. They were playing catch-up, though, especially when they conceded a couple of goals early and really needed to have a big last quarter. 4 goals each in the last quarter. And the likes of Savini, Schofield, they were fantastic. Liam Hipmott continuing his good form in the season. And Zach Clark, 65 hit-outs in another outstanding disposal in the ruck. If he's not a Sandover Medal favourite, then there's something wrong.
He makes an impact, to say the least.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Yeah, and controlled that division. But so, again, it's a credit to Swans to be able to sort of counteract that and still win the game. But he is, it's no surprise coming back from Victoria where he was playing, and he has just slotted in. And you're right. He's obviously one of the front runners for it. But 65 hit outs is a reasonably dominant performance
In a losing effort, in a losing team, no less.
Dare say, yeah, exactly right. And it's not just his height. He's clearly a gifted sort of tap ruckman and uses his body positioning really well. So. It is an outstanding performance. Another one who, follows up really strongly at ground level, but not enough. And credit to Swans, because that's a really impressive win.
Certainly is, and it keeps the race for 5th place alive. And then the final game on the Sunday at Leederville Oval with top spot up for grabs. We mentioned earlier East Perth nabbing their 7th win in a row, reversing the tables on Claremont after a big last quarter, 4 goals to 1, set up by, again, that calibre midfield of Schumacher, Brayshaw and Crowden, and backed up by Sam Van Diemen, who kicked an important 3 goals.
Yeah, anyone. And, some of their midfielders just continually kick goals from midfield as well. That's invaluable. Goal-kicking midfielders like gold, and East Perth have multiple of them. It's a really intimidating midfield group to come up against. And even, look, they did perform well, but even when they don't, you look at names like Crowden and Brayshaw who bring that, ex-AFL experience. You're always going to be in the game. You can have a down quarter, but these guys will get you up. And, we heard about the camaraderie of East Perth last week, and the sort of, even just the good nature that someone like Hamish Brayshaw brings. It's always interesting to hear them speak about him. He's apparently a really laid-back character, and you can't underestimate the importance of that. Like, when you get to the depths of winter and it's cold and it's wet and you don't want to go to training, and guys like that get you up and about. And
Brayshaw's like, along with Ross McQueen, he's like the galvaniser of the side, gets them going.
Well, that's exactly what it sounds like. I'm not going to pretend to, be in the inner sanctum, but everybody that we speak to has sort of suggested the same. And when you get the perfect balance of obviously a lot of talent, but also a lot of camaraderie, you get results like this, 7 in a row, and they're going from strength to strength.
As for Claremont, their back was against the wall at half-time. They got back into the contest in the 3rd quarter. They took back some momentum with some good ball use from the likes of Mountford, Miles, who I think is getting better this season, Benny Edwards, along with Jai Bolton. But I really think the shutdown job the midfield did on Bailey Rogers, the East Perth midfield did on Bailey Rogers, was really the key at the end of the 3rd quarter and at the start of the last.
Yeah, and it speaks sort of volumes that they actually turn to that sort of role, because you could quite easily sit there and go, our midfield's awesome, we don't need to worry about anyone else, but they did, and you're right, they did a really good job, and were able to blanket, the influence, which is, important in winning games when you can identify a player that can take it away from you, and they just ensured that he couldn't.
It was a great job by all those at East Perth. Now to the ladder after round 14. East Perth atop the ladder for the first time in 9 years. They tie with Claremont on 40 points, but it's the Royals on a superior percentage. Then East Perth in 3rd, Peel Thunder in 4th, each on 36, and Subiaco still in 5th place. But West Perth and Swan District slowly creeping 6th and 7th after both getting good wins, and then South Fremantle, Perth and West Coast rounding at the bottom half.
Can I ask you, Paul, you see a scenario where any of those clubs sneak in?
It's possible, but I said a couple of weeks ago when John Townsend was on here, I just think the deficit between West Perth and Subiaco and Swan Districts and Subiaco will be too far back.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very difficult. It might come down to the last round of the season, but I think Subiaco will stay in that 5th place.
Yep. It'll be tough. I mean, and West Perth, pardon me, you can't afford to drop any games from here.
Well, the problem is they got Claremont next
Tough assignment.
in Claremont.
Yeah, exactly. So the game to watch. And if West Perth are legitimate contenders, that's a game they need to win. They need to knock off someone who is right up the top and earn their spot in the 5. They'll know that. And don't be surprised to see them come out, firing against Claremont.
They certainly need to be, especially since the fact that only one time in the last 4 that Claremont have been beaten by West Perth, and that was in last year's grand final. Of course, every game in round 15 is live, free, and in full on the AFL app. 4 games this weekend. Should be an absolute rip around. This is Around the Waffle, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Let's get to the votes, Mark, and my golly, this was a tough one. A very, very tough round to get votes. Honourable mention, Tom Edwards of Swan Districts, 4 goals in that last quarter. He'll be stiff to miss out, Tommy. I'm incredibly sorry, mate. But at least the cash prize.
I can't believe it.
At least the cash prize will be a nice consolation.
Yeah,
mate.
you got the golden grunt.
Yes.
I don't even think he cares about the cash. It's all about winning the golden grunt.
Absolutely. Let's get to the votes for round 14. Harrison Marsh of East Fremantle, he gets the 1. His performance up in Geraldton was just fantastic. Tyler Keitel, even though he was inaccurate in front of goal, he was able to inflict some scoreboard pressure for West Perth. He gets the 2. Aidan Clark of Swan Districts, he got 28. He got the 3 votes, 6 marks, 3 tackles as well. His grunt at the coalface was just brilliant. 4 votes, Solomon James of South Fremantle. His follow-up work in the ruck was just outstanding. He's really developing his craft as a prime ruckman, really replacing, so to speak, Brock Higgins as that number 1 ruckman at South Fremantle. And the Around the Waffle top gun of round 14 this week from East Perth is Sam Van Diemen. 20 disposals, 3 marks, 5 tackles, and 3 very important goals for East Perth in that game against Claremont. I love the work of Van Diemen up forward. He's only been in the league side for about a year now. He made his debut in round 9 in Mandurah, but the way he's been able to get it going has been fantastic.
Yeah, great name too. Van Diemen. Sounds strong.
I'm not sure if he was from Van Diemen's Land or something, but maybe. I don't know.
No, he was good, and found the ball, but again, kicking 3 goals and finding that much of the footy. He's earned the top votes. I can understand that one.
He was fantastic on Sunday. Let's go to the leaderboard just quickly before we wrap things up. Jai Bolton's still in the lead on 11. Then it's Zach Clark and Jarvis Pina on 10. Milan Murdoch on 9. Aidan Clark and Tom North on 8. And then rounding out the top 8, Jimmy Miller of South Fremantle with 7. And Sam Van Diemen gets into the top 8 with those 5 votes. Mark, great job from you as always, mate. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Thanks, Paul. Pleasure. Yeah, look forward to it.
Also, that'll be a preview of round 15. Just a reminder, we have socials in operation, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a big thumbs up and like our pages. We really do appreciate it. You can watch every episode on the BackChat Studios YouTube channel, or you can listen on wherever you get your podcast. We look forward to your company on Thursday to preview a huge round 15.